There's a difference between listening to someone in order to be with them as they share their difficult experiences, thoughts, and feelings, and listening to someone in order to assess them and signpost or diagnose and treat them. Both types of listening have their place, but the experience for the speaker in each case is very different. One focuses only on the person speaking and simply being alongside them in their difficulty, bearing witness to their vulnerabilities and challenges. The other focuses on deciding the suitability of the person and their situation for a particular system or procedure. If you do listen to people, be clear that you know the difference and that the person you're listening to does too, so that they know what to expect from taking the brave step of opening up to you. Hi everyone, welcome to the Communication and Conflict YouTube channel and Chaos podcast, promoting mindful communication and growth through conflict. So I've just read out the words to a post that I sometimes put up on LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter. And it talks about the difference between listening in order to just be with someone who's going through a very tough personal challenge, and listening to someone in order to assess them, perhaps over that same challenge, but in order to signpost them or diagnose them or to prescribe something for them. And I often wonder to what extent the difference between those two types of listening are considered. Because obviously in the area of things like personal challenges and mental health challenges, one of the most important things people can experience is to just be listened to, just to be witnessed, as I call it, just to have their difficulties kind of acknowledged and validated, I guess, just by having someone listen to them without there being any judgment or opinions or viewpoints or needs to kind of, save the person, rescue them, to kind of intervene in their experience, but just to listen to them, just to give them space to say, I've had a shit day or I've had a shit week, or however they express it, but one which is very much about hearing what their challenges are, without trying to take it over, without trying to intervene, etc. And just for that kind of space for someone to kind of share what their difficulty has been and how they're feeling, and the fact that just for now perhaps they're feeling in a very bad place, and it may be a bad place that they revisit from time to time, but just one that being given some space and time to be listened to and witnessed can often be quite supportive of them, rather than for them to kind of keep it all locked up inside and feel that they can't share it. And obviously it's a very brave step for someone to be willing to share that kind of personal challenge or mental health difficulty, or however they would describe it, just that kind of personally very kind of difficult place to be in. But there's also the kind of listening which is where a professional that they've gone to might be listening to them in order to decide on something else that might be provided for them, or that they might be directed to or signposted to, etc. And obviously they're very different experiences for the person speaking. And I do kind of sometimes wonder to what extent that difference is acknowledged, because sometimes people in that very difficult place might have only an experience of assessment. They may not always have that just clear space to be listened to. In the past few years, particularly in the UK, possibly in other countries as well, there's been a big kind of drive to, as the phrase goes, get people to talk to someone when they're feeling down. So talk to someone is a kind of phrase that you often hear, but I sometimes wonder, well, what is the experience people have when they do talk to someone? Are they only going to be assessed, or are they just going to be given space to just be in that bad place for a little while, but to have someone with them to just be alongside them while they're going through it, and to listen to them, and to not get upset by it and not get panicked by it, but just to hear that they feel crap. They feel really bad. Maybe they're talking about, some kind of action they're going to take, like self-harm or suicide or something. But what is it that means that it can be clear that there is that safe space for someone to share how difficult they're finding life and they're finding situations, without it having to be that there's an assessment going on at the same time. And as I say, I'm not wanting to criticize that in certain circumstances there needs to be that assessment, but I wonder how often it is that people just and only have just someone to listen to them, just to be with them, without it having to mean that another step is taken, which ultimately they may not always be in control of. And so in a sense that can sometimes be quite frightening, and therefore it doesn't have the same kind of impact as an experience as just having someone who's going to just listen to them. And I also wonder sometimes how much the people who are doing the listening are aware of that important difference. Because I think sometimes it can be felt that because someone is going to speak to a professional, they're going to experience the kind of listening that just witnesses what they're going through. But I would say very often that's not the case. They do only experience the assessment aspect. And so that kind of very sacred almost space of being able to just share where we're at without intervention, without judgment, without panic, without fixing, doesn't always happen as much as it could do. And I think in the field of mental health challenges and personal challenges that may go by a different name, whatever, there's much less of that than there could be. And as I say, I'm not wanting to say that one is better than another. They both have their place, but I sometimes wonder to what extent that important distinction between the two is acknowledged, because just having space to be listened to without anything else, just that's it, just space, someone to be present with you without any follow-on, without any follow-up, without any viewpoints or opinions or assessments or prescriptions being given. Just having that space can be one of the most powerful things we can experience when we're going through a difficult time. And sometimes when there's only the sense of it being an assessment or a prescription or a signposting, it can sometimes start to feel as though our difficulty is being kind of taken over, and it can lead to a sense of kind of powerlessness, because we wonder what's being done with our difficulty when it is actually our difficulty. And it's important that we can feel that we have control over what it is that we're experiencing. So that's it really, just a video and a short podcast to invite you to consider that distinction between listening. So it might be something that you experience yourself if you're having some difficulties and personal challenges that you're looking for support with, or you might be someone who provides that kind of support. I just want to kind of raise that distinction between two types of listening, because whenever I put the post up, it can sometimes be that people who are involved in this kind of work can kind of say, yeah, I've never really thought about that before, I've not kind of considered that, and other people say, how much they appreciate that just witnessing type of listening when it happens, because sometimes it can feel as though it's quite rare for it to happen. But as I said, I don't want to suggest that one is more important or better than another. I just think that sometimes there's less of the witnessing kind of listening than there could be in certain situations, that sometimes people who are listening can feel they've got to do something with what someone's sharing, rather than just to recognise how supportive and useful and lovely it is to just have that space to be listened to and nothing more sometimes. So I hope you found it interesting. If you did, please like, the video and the podcast. Please subscribe for future videos and podcasts, and have a good day. Bye bye.